Wafuasi wa Raila Odinga, kujeni hapa. Leo nataka kuomba msamaha na kuapologize kwa sababu sisi wenye tulikuwa Kenya Kwanza wakati wa campaign na wale wenye tulikuwa tunaamini Ruto sana ndio tuliwapatia serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. So we are the reason why we are suffering today. Lakini sasa na apologize si kwa sababu ati hiyo apology inatoka kwa roho, but because I want you to come closer so that we can have this conversation about why are we here. I want us to agree on 3 things. Thing number 1 is that kuna wajinga wa Kenya Kwanza, ama in short wajinga wa Ruto, ambao wanadhani Ruto atafanya economy kuwe nzuri na arudishe cost of living chini. Number 2, nataka to agree kwamba the Kenyan government is illegitimate. Number 3, I want us to agree that if it was not for Raila Odinga, the cost of living haingekuwa mahali iko saa hizi. Before you judge me, let's start with number 1. President William Ruto alikuwa elected through a bottom-up economic model. And the way the hustlers understood that bottom-up economic model, ilikuwa ni mambo na kubadilisha policies za serikali ziwe zile zenye zinawezesha mwananchi wa kawaida kuweka pesa mfukoni. Instead of him running that policy, or maybe because I don't want to say that Ruto ali misunderstand the bottom-up economic model, I don't want to say that the cabinet secretaries and the people running the government misunderstood or do not understand the bottom-up economic model, because they are not children. In fact, all of them ni watu wameenda shule, ni watu ambao wamesoma na wanajua chenye wanafaa kuwa wakifanya. But I want to say that the formula that the president is using versus what was in the mind of those who elected President William Ruto hazipatani. As in, there is no relationship between kuweka pesa mfukoni and increasing taxes for the individual hustlers. I mean, today yule mtu mwenye alikuwa analipwa 100,000 alafu akona take home ya 50,000 ama after taxation anapeleka nyumbani 50,000, leo anapeleka nyumbani 70% inaenda na serikali. Ile pesa unaenda nazo nyumbani as take home ni below 30,000 or thereabout. So there is no formula of William Ruto taxing more and leaving more money to your pocket, or taxing more to scare away investors na Wakenya kukubali ama kuenjoy investing in Kenya and enjoying business environment. In fact, the Ruto's policies are scaring away investment. They are scaring away business people in the business environment, because it is not, the Kenyan economy is not safe. It is not feeling safe for business. So we agree, kuna wajinga wenye wanaamini Ruto atatengeneza economy when he's having all these policies zenye zinatusikia na policies zenye zinatufinya, policies zenye zinaharibu economy na zenye zinamaliza pesa mfukoni. That we can agree. Then we can agree with something else. Something number 2. Enye Raila amekuwa kihubiri, that Ruto's government is illegitimate. The reason why I said that we can agree about government, the illegitimate government, is because Raila Odinga was here telling us that Kibaki's government was illegitimate. He was here telling us that Uhuru's government was illegitimate. And now he is here telling us that Ruto's government is illegitimate. For a moment, before I took my time to think about it, nilikuwa nadhani Raila Odinga ni kichwa kwa mbaya until I went to the dictionary, the simple meaning of illegitimacy ama legitimacy. If you go to your dictionary, you will have this meaning, 2 meanings. Number 1 is conformity to the law. When we look at that, if we look at the law, and the law speaking about election and those who will be sworn in by the IBC takes over the government, then the government is legitimate. But there's another second meaning yenye inaitwa meaning of legitimacy, that I want you to understand. The meaning number 2, the ability to defend with logic and justification, or in other words, the validity. There's a meaning I want us to focus on. Hii ya Cambridge Dictionary, the meaning that says that legitimacy means reasonable, or the quality of being reasonable and accepted. When we talk about government and people's representation, or government kuwa ina represent wananchi na ina exist so that ina defend the interest ya mwananchi, then we can all agree that the government of Kenya has proven to be illegitimate. Because currently, as we speak, you can be assured that someone as junior as your chief cannot guarantee justice to you. If you have a case na unataka chief aende akatatue, you can be 101% guaranteed that chief hata kudeliver justice if you will not have something to corrupt the chief, because the chief system is corrupted. If you call a police officer na uko na kakesi ambako kanahitaji polisi ndio kuja watatuanishe, and you don't have something to give to that police officer for corruption purpose, you can be assured that this police officer will not deliver services to you and assure you justice. Same way ukipanda huko juu to the MCA, you are sure that the MCA of your area is not there to serve the interest of the mwananchi. Because first of all, the way or the path that huyo MCA alitumia kuingia into power was a path of investment. That MCA had to buy your vote for you to vote them in. That is carried to the presidency. For President William Ruto to become the president, lazima ange campaign using trillions or billions of shillings to buy votes. You know, tulimuona akienda kwa makanisa akipeana mamilioni za pesa. We also saw Raila Odinga akikampaign akipeana pesa on equal measures. So when they get to power, wakikalia hizo viti, when someone becomes the president and appoints his ministers and does everything and settles down, instead of kufikiria vile watadeliver zile promises walitupatia, ama kufanya vile zile mambo zingefurahisha the common mwananchi, the first priority that they take is how they will get back the money that they used to campaign. Because hata kama ni wewe, uwekele pesa kwa biashara, uweke biashara mahali kwa katauni yenyu, ama uweke biashara yoyote mahali, when you get into action ya hiyo biashara, the first thing that comes to your mind is how you will get back the money that you invested into that business. And in my opinion, because of that money yenye Raila na Ruto walitumia kucampaign, that's why Raila Odinga will never be at peace with the government until a formula is provided that Raila Odinga will get back the money that he had invested in the campaign. And because that cannot just come, they were rivals na walikuwa wanachukiana, hawakuwa wanasikizana wakati wa campaign. For it to come, the government or the people who won the presidency, in this case Ruto, lazima aringaringe na akuwe resistant kidogo, because hataki Raila Odinga akuje kuharibu hii formula ya kujirudishia pesa zake zenye alifanya campaign. Hataki Raila Odinga akuje kwa equation, because it will take even longer for them to get back the money. This is an opinion, sitaki mtu aseme ati hivi ndo kunaenda. This is an opinion I'm giving. This is why I think we are going through whatever we are going through. So in that case, with these people prioritizing them getting back the money and forgetting about the promise that they gave to the Kenyan citizens who elected them into power, they come up with policies that will favor politicians and not the common mwananchi, and so that does not sound reasonable to the mwananchi. I want you to remember the concept of legitimacy and the meaning of legitimacy. The aspect of being reasonable, or the quality of being reasonable and acceptable. Because we do not think that it is reasonable for the president to appoint 21 CSs and then appoint another 50 CASs. We don't think it is reasonable to have all those people surrounding him, and we don't think it is reasonable to have the president having all those resources being used just to finance the presidency. Therefore, we tend not to accept or not to agree with the government. So therefore, the government is not acceptable to the citizens. The policies zenye serikali inapitisha za kutax wa Kenya so that they can finance their senseless offices and offices that are not making sense, that government or those policies put by that government become unacceptable. So therefore, within this meaning of illegitimacy, or this meaning of legitimacy, the government is illegitimate. So we can agree that this government, and most of the times, governments are illegitimate to the people. Okay? Then let's agree. Then comes a question. When a government becomes illegitimate, whether legally it is legitimate, but to the eyes of the people and to the relation of the people, that government is illegitimate. What should the citizens do? What is the option for the citizens when the government becomes illegitimate? Well, the politicians, the likes of Raila Odinga, and therefore we go to number 3 thing that I want us to agree, that was it not for Raila Odinga, the cost of living would not be the way it is today. Let's discuss. When governments become illegitimate, people like Raila Odinga, who are politicians like the people in government, come and tell us that we need to hold maandamano. We need to come together as Kenyans and invoke or provoke this Article 1 of the Constitution that says that all sovereign power belongs to the people. So people like so Raila Odinga calls us for maandamano, and we go for maandamano. We say that these policies zenye RUTO amepitisha have made the cost of living to go too high, and therefore he must bring them down. So Raila Odinga, the politician, comes with his baggage of political interest, with his baggage of self-interest, with his baggage of whole, too many things that he wants to go together with the cost of living. And he uses this aspect called all sovereign power belongs to the people. Okay? So when Raila Odinga succeeds and we hold demonstration, we cause a lot of havoc, we cause a lot of we cause a lot of problems to the government. Raila and his team are called, wanaitwa to a dialogue committee. For example, hii ya 2022 akina Kalonzo wanaketi pamoja na akina Kimani Ichung'wah speaking on behalf of Raila and Ruto, and they lie to you that they are speaking on behalf of Kenyans. Nyinyi na maandamano yenyu na kukufa yenyu na njaa yenyu mulikuwa mnaandamana because of the cost of living. Probably because of this 16% fuel levy or fuel VAT yenye imeongezwa, yenye kafanya mafuta iende juu na kila kitu ikaenda juu, because everything is dependent on the fuel. So munaketi munangoja Raila Odinga will solve your problem, then eventually si report imetoka. You come to realize that everything was agreed on. They had Raila and Ruto's team agreed on everything except the cost of living. And now that cost of living has been left deliberately to control you, so that Raila akiwa nje anawa keep busy mukiongea kuhusu the cost of living. Eventually you will have the government going for 5 years with the cost of living being on the same level, and that will be used as a campaign tool. And eventually, because of your fujo, zile vitu zingine Raila alikuwa anataka zimepitishwa. We have an official opposition leader in parliament. We have an official position of the prime minister. Kiti ya Mudavadi imekuwa sasa anchored into the constitution, and now it is a requirement that we should have a prime minister. Things that do not concern you, and I wonder how huwa tunabebwa ujinga na tunakubaliana kwamba we have now had a dialogue and now everything is okay. The cost of living inabaki tu pale pale. Why did I say that? Was it not for Raila Odinga cost of living ingeenda chini? Now, let's ignore the fact that we cannot get justice as long as, or the cost of living cannot go down as long as it is a politician, Raila Odinga, lamenting to another politician, William Ruto. Now, take this challenge. What if sisi wa Kenya tungekuwa na umoja, ama tungekuwa pamoja, to agree kwamba we are coming together and we are not stopping unless what we are calling for is addressed. Think about it. If we were to come together na tuseme we are demonstrating because of the cost of fuel, saizi iko 217, and we are demanding that the cost of fuel is high because of taxation, because 60%, over 60%, in fact maybe over 70% ya cost of fuel ni taxes za serikali. Tuambiane hatutapumzika unless the government drops down the cost of fuel. Alafu tuambiane hatutaenda kwa street, because tukienda kwa street serikali itatutumia polisi na tutapigwa na tutalose. Tutaingiza uoga na tutayarudi kwa manyumba. Tuseme kwamba maybe to agree, I'm just using as an example, tuseme hatutanunua fuel, that for one whole day we have a holiday of not buying fuel at all, and we make sure that any machine that uses fuel to run hatutanunua, except maybe zenye zisipotumika mtu atakufa. For example, maybe there is a machine yenye ina run kwa hospitali yenye inatumia diesel ama petroli yenye imeshikilia uhai ya mgonjwa. So tuseme hao tutawaruhusu, but the rest of us wenye tunaendesha magari, the rest of us wenye tuko na mashine zenye zinatumia diesel, tuseme hatutumii for that particular day or for that week. Do you want to tell me that serikali inaweza kaa hivyo? Ama can the government come and force us to buy fuel? Can the government come house to house ikituambia hizi magari mumeweka kwa nyumba, tokeni muende muweke mafuta? Can it force us to buy fuel? Kama ni mambo ya electricity, because pia electricity imepanda sana and we are complaining. If we decide as Kenyans that no bulb, no house will have electricity, we have it but we will switch off. All of us to switch off. Except kwa mahospitali kwenye again kuna watoto wenye wako kwa incubators, kuna watu wenye wako kwa life support machines. Hao watu waruhusu watumie. If not using electricity can make you to die, then wewe tukuruhusu kutumia ndio usiumie. Lakini all of us wenye wako kwa manyumba tuzime na tuamue kwamba hatutatumia electricity until they bring it down. Do you think the government can come house to house wakiwaambia switch on electricity, switch on electricity? No. Do you think Kenya Power can be able to persevere ati waende losses ya day 1, day 2 kama hatutumii electricity? Don't you think they will come together and try to see how they can solve it? And hakuna mtu ataumia. When I say that, najua watu wengi wanafikiria the right thing, which it is reasonable to think of, that this is impossible. Well, it is impossible, and I know. Why is it impossible? What is the reason? Because people like Raila Odinga exist. Because they are able to lie to you that they are speaking on your behalf. But when they are called to speak, they speak about things that concerns them and they forget about things that concerns you. But I can tell you it is possible. You are called for such kind of maandamano zile zilikuwa zinafanywa na babu zetu wakati hawakuwa wanajua vile wanafanya, walikuwa wamemekiwa wa believe that Moi was a god, or Kenyatta was a kind of god mwenye hangeumia. Hakuwa na mwaga damu. In fact, Kenyatta akikufa wengi walishangaa sana, kwani president anakufaga. You have this mentality that we must be led by a politician, Raila Odinga. Then akienda akipata yake, the rest of the things zinabaki vile ziko and Kenyans have to suffer. When will you enjoy your sovereignty? Why is it not possible for Kenyans to agree that we have a common problem and we have to do something about it without injuring fellow Kenyans? That's impossible, I know. Na najua watu wengi wana agree na mimi. It's impossible. But the reason why it is impossible is because people like Raila Odinga and people like William Ruto exist, and they lie to us that they represent us. And so we have sold all our sovereignty to them. That's why people wa Raila Odinga wanajanga kwa comment section every time you talk negative about Raila Odinga, wanakuambia nyamaza kuhusu Raila Odinga. In fact, they can kill you. You see, people like Nuru Okanga, Akina Gaucho, there's nothing they cannot do to you if you abuse Raila Odinga or you talk ill of Raila Odinga. Not because he has saved anyone, but because he has been able to convince us. William Ruto has been able to convince the Kalenjins. Gachagua has been able to convince the Kikuyus that they represent them. And therefore we sold, not donating, we sold our sovereignty to them when they paid us to vote them as our presidents.